Well, you know that some companies these days are more successful than other companies when it comes to managing in this time of crisis with the coronavirus. What separates the good companies from the bad companies? What separates the successful companies from the unsuccessful companies? Well, I'm a marketing professor, so I often view the world through marketing. And it seems to me that the companies which are incredibly successful right now are the companies which have well-defined values. That is to say, they have a conviction, and this conviction then informs how they operate in times of crisis. You know, there's a very famous saying that a person's true character is revealed in times of crisis and temptation. And I think it's the same for companies, that companies' character, their values, their conviction, what they believe is revealed in times of crisis and temptation. And we are facing an unprecedented crisis now. I've noticed that many companies now have advertisements which say things like, oh, we're in this together and we believe in you and we have your back and we support you. But many of those claims sound hollow if the company truly doesn't believe that, or if the values of the company do not reflect the idea of care. So again, it seems to me that the companies which are more successful now in this time of crisis are the companies which have articulated their values very clearly and are living by those values during this crisis time. We are in a crisis, and of course, one of these days, hopefully, the crisis will end. But when it ends, companies which have been suffering will need to reinvent themselves. What will it take? What will it take for these companies to bounce back, to reinvent themselves, to get back to the old way? Well, I'm a marketing professor. I see the world through marketing. So consequently, for me, I think these companies need to focus on the customer. The customer is the most important person in the world. The customer has the money at the end of the day, and we want that money. That's what business is all about. In good times, companies often forget about the customer, or they take the customer for granted. But now, in this crisis, customers have disappeared. They don't have money. They don't have money, or they're redirecting their money to the life's necessities. So when we come out of this crisis, which is sooner rather than later, I hope, companies will need to redouble their effort on consumer research. They will need to focus on what are the needs of the customers. Truly, what are the needs of the customers? And how can we as companies deliver value so that customers give us their money? Business is always risky. Why? Because markets, by definition, are complex, they are competitive, and they are changing. We sometimes call those the 3 C's, right? Companies face risk when they go to market because the market is complex, changing, and competitive. And of course, the coronavirus has amplified those 3 things. The coronavirus has changed the everyday activities of a company because the coronavirus has changed everyday life for consumers, everyday life for our competitors, everyday life in general. And of course, the competition is incredibly fierce. Think about all those restaurants which are trying to stay in business by doing curbside delivery or home delivery. So these 3 C's, competition, change, and complexity, have been amplified because of the coronavirus. And consequently, I think that the companies which are more agile, more adaptable, will be able to survive during the corona crisis and also hopefully come out of the other side stronger and more able to thrive.